From our studios at the corner of 8th and Walton in Bentonville, Arkansas, welcome to Saturday Morning Meeting, brought to you in part by Dun & Bradstreet Credibility Corp. Saturday Morning Meeting covers Walmart, Sam's Club, and the consumer product companies that are represented on the racks and shelves throughout the country and around the world. I'm Derek Ridenauer, and our focus is on the insights, trends, and best practices to help you as a supplier grow your business with the world's largest retailer. Thank you for joining us, and coming up today, we'll be talking with John O'Leary from Rising Above, and reviewing this week's top news stories with me are Ken Simpson and Andy Schuch. But first, the headlines. Reuters reports that Walmart plans a huge Canadian expansion and will invest over $450 million in the country, adding over 7,500 jobs. News of the expansion caused shares in rivals such as Target and Loblaws to dip. Walmart's goal is to have 395 stores operating in Canada by the end of January 2015. CVS triggered shockwaves this week by announcing plans to discontinue its sale of cigarettes and other tobacco products. According to the Chicago Tribune, CVS will cease selling tobacco by October 1st of this year. The effort is part of CVS's plan to expand its provision of healthcare services to its customers. This action by CVS puts significant pressure on other drugstores to follow suit. The verdict is still out on competitors' plans to eliminate tobacco, although Walgreens has announced plans to develop a free online smoking cessation program. Walmart recently forecasted lower than expected fourth quarter earnings and, according to the LA Times, blamed the disappointing numbers on several factors, including a reduction in the food stamps program, as well as severe winter weather that discouraged people from shopping and closed stores. Walmart recently responded to charges by the National Labor Relations Board that it unfairly disciplined workers who were involved with labor activism. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, Walmart argues that the strikes held by workers were such of a nature that it was difficult to distinguish them from absenteeism. TechCrunch reports that Walmart is testing its Walmart To Go online grocery service in select markets, including full-service delivery in Denver, Colorado. The program, still in its infancy, allows customers in most test markets to order fresh groceries and then pick them up in store. However, customers in Silicon Valley and Denver can opt to have their groceries delivered to them. Walmart is still determining which services appeal most to customers. And finally, Krispy Kreme iced coffee fans will be able to pick up their favorite beverages at over 900 Walmart locations in the United States. ABC 15 in Phoenix reports that Krispy Kreme ready-to-drink iced coffees and original glazed and mocha flavors make their Walmart debut on February the 10th. Check out Walmart and supplier news as it's reported on walmartnewsnow.com. And we're joined now by our panel, Andy Schuch from Schuch Up Sales Strategy and Ken Simpson from Clorox. Welcome, guys.
Thanks.
Wanted to start off, CVS made headlines this week. They are now getting rid of all the tobacco in their stores. Ken, what's your take on this? Good move, bad move?
Well, I think it's a good move for them or they wouldn't have done it. I think retailers, they do what's in their interest, their financial interest, and also in this situation it has to do with the image that they want to project. But I think in this situation, they did it because they want to be associated with good health care. They want to have a good relationship with the hospitals and with the doctors. They think that they can leverage this when they talk to those kind of people and forming those kind of alliances. And the fact that they were selling tobacco before was a big negative. Not to mention that they had customers that also protested in the past about them doing that.
Well, I think politically it was a great move too. I mean, you got the president talking about it. It went nationwide very quickly. Everyone's talking about it right now on all of the radio talk shows and the TV talk shows and everything else. I mean, all of that stuff's going to add up, as far as to, CVS taking a stand in this. And I agree with you. I mean, I think it's a PR move, and I think it's a great move on their part. Whether you agree or disagree with whether tobacco should be sold in stores and all of that kind of stuff is...
Well, there's still a demand for it. You still have consumers who are smokers.
Exactly.
Still want it. And so I see this as a couple things. One, consumers are going to just now go somewhere else to get it. And
Sure.
so I think you're going to see an increase at Walgreens, and I think you're going to see an increase at Walmart, because those are the two, really the big rivals that are going to continue to sell it. So I look for that kind of an uptick in their sales.
Well, they had the dollar stores already taking sales away from them because they added tobacco not all that long ago. But also, if you look at CVS's plans, they're going to have more sales growth through health than through the retail part of their store. And so they're doing this because it's good for their business.
I would look for them to change, not that they're going to go back to this, but replace the shelf space with things that are going to be higher margin than tobacco. To your point, they're going to stop the competition And we see so many Native American smoke shops that are popping up all over the place. Stiff competition. There's some tax laws that they get to avoid. So I look for them to make a decision, or as they made this decision, to drive their margins up, or replacing that with higher margin items.
Well, and possibly, even replacing it with vapor cigarettes, the e-cigarettes, trying to put in something that, is not tobacco, but still, it takes care of that need and that want for those that do use tobacco. So
my understanding is that they are going to put in some products that will help people to stop smoking.
Okay, yeah.
A good move. We'll see how it ultimately all works out, and maybe we'll be talking about it in 6 months and see where they stand. Something else that made news this week, Walmart announced that they are now going to be expanding more into Canada and opening up, they're spending $450 million US dollars in Canada to put in some new stores and really blow the supercenters up. Andy?
Well, and I think, as we talked about this, it's really they're kind of doing what they did last year as far as the number of stores that they're putting in. They're putting in about the same number of stores. So I don't know if it's really a big story, but I think it's a big story just on the tail of kind of what's happened to Target over the last year with, their not as much success as they wanted in Canada over this last year. And I think as Walmart, continues to say, hey, we're going to be supporting Canada. We're going to continue growing in Canada. This is an area of the country. I mean, they've pulled out of, I think was it Brazil and some other, they've closed some stores down there. And, yeah. So, but that's not happening in Canada. So I think, you balance that out with where they were and what they're doing in this country. Here's what we're going to continue to do in Canada.
They're growing in China, too.
They're growing in China,
stores, but they're really going to those smaller communities.
Yeah, having worked in international just until recently, I've seen those Walmart stores in Canada. I've worked with Walmart up there. I mean, they are strong. They are very successful in Canada. It's not that they don't have competition. Loblaws is a very good grocery retailer. They have some e-commerce with Amazon that's competition. I mean, they have some good competitors up there, but Walmart's very strong, very smart, very successful. And with Target coming in, as I saw those Target stores after they opened, they had some real issues. They had issues particularly with being in stock. And even after the grand opening of those stores, as I went back to Canada, I saw they continue to have issues. So that's not a good way to greet new customers.
Especially when you're going into a brand new country like that and really trying to make a stand. I saw this as something, and the next story we're going to talk about are bad fourth quarter reports, or Walmart did some downgrade. I almost see this as Walmart released this very conveniently, and as they released kind of the downgrade on their fourth quarter earnings, as a PR thing to say and make a stance, we're still going to grow. We're still in growth mode, and we're still investing back in our stores. We're investing and continuing to grow that top line sales. Yeah, fourth quarter wasn't so good, but we're going to move on. We're going to focus ahead because as they've downgraded their fourth quarter earnings, which the final earnings are going to be coming out later this month. What's your take on that? Andy, I'll come to you first.
As far as the growth?
Well, the fourth quarter and kind of piggybacking that on with Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is a good time for Walmart right now as far as coming out of the fourth quarter. It didn't grow as much as what we thought it was going to, but I think a lot of that has to do with the weather. It has a lot to do with Christmas sales and some of the things happen with that. But I think Walmart's positioned right. I think they're in the right place and the right place to go right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still think, and I've said this before, that just based on what I saw in the stores over Christmas, I think they had a good Christmas. But there are some other factors which are mentioned in these articles that are affecting them and other retailers. Mm-hmm. But I have to wonder, Doug's coming in. Okay, so it's kind of maybe the results aren't stellar right now. I mean, that has a good side to it. The good side is that Doug's going to be the CEO for a long time. He can always point back and say, hey, when I started, here's where we were, and now here's where we were, and I'm confident that Doug's going to be a great leader.
And he now is in charge of that, so we'll see where things go. All right, we've got about a minute left. Fourth quarter earnings were bad. Was anybody really super surprised by that? I mean, I don't think Wall Street responded too much. Obviously, it was a little bit of downplay, but
well, it's really hard to say right now because, I mean, the stock market just took a big drop, right? So, I mean, everybody kind of came down at the same time. So, even with this announcement on top of it, you didn't see another big sell-off happening with Walmart, which is good.
Right.
But again, I don't think anybody was surprised with the fourth quarter, just with all the weather issues and everything else that's been going on. I mean, we're seeing it week by week in sales with our clients and what's been happening. I mean, one week will be good, and then the next week's bad. All of a sudden, a storm goes through, and you've got stores that are closed, people that aren't able to get out. I mean, it's really hard right now to predict sales. And you know what? When it's 8 degrees outside, there's not a whole lot of people like even going out shopping much. Let's see it.
Ken, final thoughts?
Except for maybe you get into the store and at least it's warm inside
Yeah,
there.
exactly. That's about it.
But getting in and out's not too pleasant.
It's
All
not.
right, guys, we're going to leave it right there. And when we come back, we will be joined by this week's featured guest, John O'Leary. And he's got a great story. You don't want to miss it. It's all coming up when Saturday Morning Meeting continues.
GigWalk is an on-demand mobile workforce that can collect data and do work at retail. Businesses use GigWalk for retail audits, merchandising, and much more. With 350,000 smartphone-enabled workers available on demand, you get unprecedented speed and coverage across the U.S., Canada, and the UK. And all work is reviewed for quality and accuracy. Visit gigwalk.com to learn more.
K-Stack, the leader in collaborative retail consolidation programs. We offer the supply chain expertise needed to navigate the challenges of selling products with the world's largest retailers. And we provide customers with a customizable, scalable, environmentally sustainable supply chain with the same advanced technology typically used by larger rivals. By leveling the playing field, K-Stack lowers distribution costs and increases overall margins. K-Stack, retail logistics is what we do.
Their business model is suppliers teaching suppliers. So when you come to 8th and Walton, you can count on having very experienced trainers who understand how suppliers work within Walmart, and they take advantage of that and incorporate that into their curriculum.
You know, the biggest challenge of working with Walmart is they really expect everyone on the team to know their language, know their terminology, and know exactly how they do business. So that's where 8th and Walton really comes into play. You know, it's the fastest way to get my team members up to speed.
Beaver Lake serves as the drinking water source for 1 in 7 Arkansans. Did you know that your actions can impact the quality of water in Beaver Lake? The Beaver Watershed Alliance is working to proactively protect, enhance, and sustain the water quality of Beaver Lake. With the help of partners, volunteers, and people like you, the Alliance is making a difference in Northwest Arkansas. Please learn more about your role in preserving the water quality of the Beaver Watershed and about how you can get actively involved. Visit beaverwatershedalliance.org. Beaver Watershed, our environment, our health, our home.
I would recommend 8th and Walton to other suppliers because from my experience talking to other suppliers, they were even learning new ideas or just new and better business practices.
Most people have little time for training, and so 8th and Walton is a perfect opportunity to send your new employees to understand the retailing system. And again, because trainers were suppliers, they know the how and the why, so they become very valuable very quickly.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Meeting. Joined now by John O'Leary. He is the founder and CEO of Rising Above. John, welcome, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Honored to be here, Derek.
Quickly, what does Rising Above do?
Rising Above was formed 7 years ago, and it's an organization that encourages individuals and organizations to take back their life, ignite their possibility, and change their world.
Which is something you've had to do and kind of overcome some diversity within your own life. We'll talk briefly about that.
Yeah, you know, the more I travel, the more I meet folks, and the more I realize that everybody's got challenges in their lives. Whether it's childhood, relationship, financial, spiritual, in our business. I know that's one of the reasons we're together today. But we all have challenges. And when I was 9 years old, I was burned in a house fire and spent 5 months in the hospital. So I started off with a pretty rocky journey, but it ended up being this massive gift.
I had a chance to hear you speak, and something that I thought was very interesting is you make a couple of parallels between victims and between leaders, and in a sense they both ask the exact same 3 questions.
Right.
And let's talk about those questions and the difference between those 2.
Yeah, right. So the questions I shared earlier were, what more can I do? Victims ask that question too, but they ask it with the mentality that there is nothing more they can do.
Out of desperation.
Exactly. And leaders ask it from a standpoint that they know they can do something else. Victims ask the question, why me? And they know that they have been given this plight and this miserable life and this horrible business, and the answer was no, and so why me?
Right.
Victors and leaders ask the same question, why me? They want to know why they're so blessed, how they have the opportunity in northwestern Arkansas, how they've been born into this incredible society right now in this place and this time. So why me? What a gift. And the other question is, where's God in this? So victims ask that, but so do victors. And the idea is that the lens that you view life through transforms the outcomes that come into your life.
Something else that I heard you say that was very interesting is that opportunity and challenges are married and they come together. Here in this environment, and for people who are calling on Walmart or calling or in a sales role, oftentimes no is one of the hardest things you're going to hear, and you may hear no quite often before you finally get to that yes and that PO. Talk about how the importance of understanding that those two come together and that you really can't have them exist independently.
That's right. Well, the no generally leads to the yes, but the key to it always is the why strong enough. One of the great men and authors of our generations is a guy named Viktor Frankl. Frankl survives the Holocaust, and 12 times in a very short little book, he uses the quote, "When you know your why, you can endure anyhow." And for him, the why was to share his story, his life with his wife down the line. He wanted to see her again, and that why was compelling enough to push him through the tragedies of the Holocaust. So when we bump into no's, we got to have a why bigger than the no.
And then the other thing that I heard you discuss is the two motivators that kind of motivate all of us. Let's talk about those, because it was fear and love, which seem very opposite, and they are very opposite. But talk about how those motivate people that you run into, and then how they motivated you as well.
Sure. So most of us, without even knowing it, choose fear as the motivator. It's either through omission or commission that we're motivated. We either choose it or we passively choose it, but either way, we chose it. And so we worry about, is it going to rain on Saturday when I'm getting married? Maybe will they say yes? If they don't say yes, will I lose my job? Will I lose my family? Is my relationship crumbling? Am I going to get sick? All these things that are fear-based. Watch the news later on. You're going to see more fear-based stories. The story we're celebrating today, and the stories great leaders celebrate every day, is one written out of love. It's out of possibility and hope and the truth that the best is yet to come. And so they let that fire them up moving forward in their business and in their lives.
So how much do you spend in traveling around, and as you do travel and you discuss, what are some key things that you would have somebody do in terms of developing themselves?
Right.
What are some things that they need to do?
You know, one of the great analogies that we use, we do leadership sessions. So we come in for 90 minutes or 3 hours or 4 days sometimes, and we take them through security that you have at airlines. The first question is, who are you? So you need to know who you are first, who you are, who your business is, really what this thing is. The next question they ask when you go through is, where are you going? What's the plan? What's the goal? What's the dream? The third question is, why? Why that place? Why Walmart? Why that sale? Why that relationship? Why that God? Why your health? Why? So it's deeper than a goal, it's a cause behind it. The fourth is, with whom are you traveling? How many family members? Right. And the fifth, if they were less of a travel person and more of a travel guide, they would ask, how are you going to get there? What's the next step? What's that one thing you can do today and every day going forward that will propel you toward that goal?
Okay, we're going to take a break real quick, and when we come back, we will continue our conversation with John O'Leary as Saturday Morning Meeting continues. Coming up.
Imagine what it would be like if you knew the weather up to a year in advance. What would you do differently for your business or your life? At Weather Trends, we don't imagine it, we do it. We're a team of meteorologists, mathematicians, and business weather advisors, and we've spent the last 20 years developing a new way to forecast months in advance. We've been studying weather's effect on product sales based on every 1 degree change in temperature. We can now take your sales data and show you exactly how the weather impacts your business down to a single degree. We're leading the way into a new era in forecasting and a new power in business decisions. And we invite you to join us. Welcome to Weather Trends.
Their business model is suppliers teaching suppliers. So when you come to 8th and Walton, you can count on having very experienced trainers who understand how suppliers work within Walmart, and they take advantage of that and incorporate that into their curriculum.
You know, the biggest challenge of working with Walmart is they really expect everyone on the team to know their language, know their terminology, and know exactly how they do business. So that's where Ethan Walton really comes into play. You know, it's the fastest way to get my team members up to speed.
Beaver Lake serves as the drinking water source for 1 in 7 Arkansans. Did you know that your actions can impact the quality of water in Beaver Lake? The Beaver Watershed Alliance is working to proactively protect, enhance, and sustain the water quality of Beaver Lake. With the help of partners, volunteers, and people like you, the Alliance is making a difference in Northwest Arkansas. Please learn more about your role in preserving the water quality of the Beaver Watershed and about how you can get actively involved. Visit beaverwatershedalliance.org. Beaver Watershed, our environment, our health, our home.
I'm Kelly Craddock, and I support our survivors.
Mi nombre es Jasmine Román y apoyo a nuestros sobrevivientes.
I'm Alan Woody, and I support our survivors.
1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men will survive a sexual assault. You can help our Northwest Arkansas survivors get free support services. Donate to the NWA Rape Crisis Center's SOS Support Our Survivors campaign. Visit NWARapeCrisis.org. There are so many ways you can give. I'm Liz Hogan, and I support our survivors.
And welcome back to Saturday Morning Meeting. We're continuing our conversation with John O'Leary. He is the founder of Rising Above in St. Louis. Great story that you've shared with us so far. Something else that I heard you say when I heard you speak is that great leaders come down to the level of the people that they want to lead, and they don't try to kind of pontificate from above. They're willing to get into the trenches. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Awesome. You know, and we could go in a million different directions right now. For me, I think the greatest example that I have personally is the example of a Hall of Fame announcer in St. Louis, Missouri named Jack Buck. And I'm sure some of the viewers today will remember the name Jack Buck. He's the fellow who brought Cardinal Nation baseball for 49 years on the radio. And so when I was first burned, what they had to do to me as a child was tie me down to the hospital bed to control contractures so I don't pull all the tubes out. My lungs were burned, so I can't breathe or eat or drink, so they cut a trach in. The trach's great, and now I have oxygen, but I can't talk. And the one additional challenge I had was swelling. I doubled in size overnight, so my eyes became swollen shut. So it's all these challenges going on, and within about 24 hours of being burned, my door opens up, and it's Jack Buck, and he walks into the room. Which you had not met before,
right?
Never met Jack Buck. He's the highest of high celebrities in St. Louis. He's on royal ground. I never met him, never even saw him, just heard his voice. And now he's one-on-one with me in my hospital room, encouraging, talking to me. He always called me kid. So he told me that day, kid, when you get out of here, we're gonna celebrate. We're gonna have a day called John O'Leary Day at the ballpark. Keep fighting.
Which is a big deal for a 9-year-old.
Oh my, it's a big deal for a 99-year-old to imagine being celebrated in your ballpark next to your hero. And I think what makes Jack so special is when he left the room, he was told by the staff that the little boy was going to die that night. It's done. And I think the questions we ask ourselves when the bad news comes in, we talked about receiving the no before. What do you do when you get a no? What do you do when a relationship is crumbling or when you're falling apart spiritually or financially? Well, Jack Buck helps us answer that. He took it home that night. He prayed, reflected, and journaled on the question, what more can I do?
Which is one of those questions that leaders and victims both always
We all ask it. But he chose to ask it as a true leader. And in answering it, what he found is he can do more. So the following day, he shows back up. He's back in my room. He's encouraging me again. And then he shows up the following day. And for 5 months, keeps driving me toward John O'Leary Day at the ballpark, a miracle. Go home from the hospital, go down to the ballpark. That night, he learns I can't write. I can't use my hands at all. And so rather than just saying, oh, the poor kid, he takes it home, he cries, he prays, and he asks the question, what more can I do? And the following day, I get in the mailbox, a ball from a Cardinal player named Ozzie Smith. And below the ball was a note from a guy named Jack Buck, my Hall of Fame hero. And the note read, kid, if you want a second baseball, all you have to do is send a thank you letter to the man who signed the first one. And I'm convinced the guy knew I could not write. But he also knew the secret to motivation. And it's not me pointing at you saying, darn it, you will do this. It's me coming all the way down to what turns you on, what inspires you forward, meeting you in your place.
Finding your currency.
There you go, finding your currency. And then together racing forward. So I wrote the note, mailed it off, get a second baseball, a second note. This one says, kid, if you want a third baseball and a fourth baseball.
Now, I think it's key to understand too, your parents had tried to get you to write.
That's right.
To no avail, correct?
Well, they went about it the wrong way. What my mom used to do is come into my room and she would have a pen in her hand, try to hand it to me, and she would say, "Baby, when you learn to write again, you get to go back to school." You know, I'm a 9-year-old kid from Missouri, man. I don't want to go back to school, Mom. And then Jack comes in with the same goal in mind, the same yes in mind, school, normal thing. But he came down to the level of a 9-year-old. And in sales and in leadership and in parenting and in everything, the key is to come into where they are, not where you are. You got to know where you are first, but then secondly, you got to meet them where they are.
All right. Well, John, we are about out of time for now. I want to thank you very much for coming in, but I do have one more question before we wrap up. What is something that keeps you up every night?
Man, that question, what more can I do? And what drives me professionally, my business is risingabove.com. I love work. But more than work, I love my wife. I have 4 children. I have a growing faith. I'm trying to stay alive, trying to help my parents, trying to make a difference. And so if you're asking, man, what keeps you up at night? It is, what more can I do? And my mission statement for life, I encourage every business owner and every salesperson and every mom and dad out there to have one. Mine is because, and I always begin it with the word because. What drives me is because God demands it, my family deserves it, and the world is starved for it. So that keeps me up at night.
All right. Well, John, thank you very much. Best of luck with you have a new book.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you for coming in and joining us, and thank you for taking the time to join us. We'll be right back as we continue with Saturday Morning Meeting.
Their business model is suppliers teaching suppliers. So when you come to 8th and Walton, you can count on having very experienced trainers who understand how suppliers work within Walmart, and they take advantage of that and incorporate that into their curriculum.
You know, the biggest challenge of working with Walmart is they really expect everyone on the team to know their language, know their terminology, and know exactly how they do business. So that's where 8th and Walton really comes into play. You know, it's the fastest way to get my team members up to speed.
Beaver Lake serves as the drinking water source for 1 in 7 Arkansans. Did you know that your actions can impact the quality of water in Beaver Lake? The Beaver Watershed Alliance is working to proactively protect, enhance, and sustain the water quality of Beaver Lake. With the help of partners, volunteers, and people like you, the Alliance is making a difference in Northwest Arkansas. Please learn more about your role in preserving the water quality of the Beaver Watershed and about how you can get actively involved. Visit beaverwatershedalliance.org. Beaver Watershed, our environment, our health, our home.
I would recommend 8th and Walton to other suppliers because from my experience talking to other suppliers, they were even learning new ideas or just new and better business practices.
Most people have little time for training, and so 8th and Walton is a perfect opportunity to send your new employees to understand the retailing system. And again, because trainers were suppliers, they know the how and the why, so they become very valuable very quickly.
Bentonville Plaza, across the street from the Walmart home office, the best office location for businesses working with the world's largest retailer. Bentonville Plaza offers proximity and services like no other business complex in the area, including custom-designed suites and an on-site fitness center and restaurant. Pre-leasing opportunities are currently available for new construction. Call 479-200-1112 today.
At 906 in Bentonville, do you know where your reps are? You could, and you should. Introducing MV Retail, the smart device-driven, dashboard providing, you need to know the truth, and you need to know it now, team management system. Visit us online to learn more, because in the world of retail, wondering is bad, but knowing is good.
Our thanks to John O'Leary and today's panelists as well. And to you, we always appreciate you taking the time to join us. If you have questions or comments, we'd like to hear from you. You can email us Saturday at 8thandwalton.com. And make plans to join us next week when our featured guest will be Chuck Hyde of the Soderquist Center. And during the Olympics, Saturday morning meeting will begin 2 minutes earlier than usual at 6:28 p.m. I'm Derek Ridenauer, and from all of us at Saturday Morning Meeting, thanks for watching, and please join us next Saturday.